On Saturday, Daniela Gilboa, Liri Albag, Naama Levy, and Karina Ariev came home after more than 470 days in captivity. Thousands cheered their return.
I live close by and I came to support the cause of getting, and we want all the hostages to come back home.
After October 7th, CBN News interviewed Sasha Ariev, who told us about the last conversation with her just-released sister, Karina.
I love you, I'm scared, they are here, they're abducting us.
Now her sister Karina and a total of 6 more hostages are free as part of this latest deal. Before their release, Hamas paraded the 4 soldiers on a stage with anti-Israel slogans. In defiance, the women gave the victory sign to the crowd. Meanwhile, some of the 90 Palestinian prisoners released in the deal returned to Ramallah. In all, nearly 2,000 prisoners, some who murdered Israelis, are to be freed during phase 1 of the deal.
Now, these people, many of them, have the most heinous murders on their records, murders of Israeli Jews, and they intend to do it again. They say
many, like British-Israeli columnist Melanie Phillips, love to see the hostages freed, but see the agreement as bad for Israel and good for Hamas.
Israel is required to stand back for at least 6 weeks while more and more aid is poured into Gaza. Now, this means that there are 2 Hamas battalions that are still left in Gaza, and Israel is forced to stand by while Hamas reorganizes itself, re-equips itself, recovers its powers, exists, survives, and consequently it thinks it has won.
Do you see that Hamas is reconstituting itself inside Gaza during this time?
Definitely. Hamas is trying to invested most of its military power to control the Palestinians in Gaza. They don't need to invest too much power because the support of the Palestinian people for Hamas is high, but they are investing to be the power to run the Gaza Strip.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked President Trump for releasing the arms held up by the Biden administration.
Thank you, President Trump, for keeping your promise to give Israel the tools it needs to defend itself, to confront our common enemies, and to secure a future of peace and prosperity.
Talking with reporters on Air Force One, Trump said he would like to see Arab countries take many of the people of Gaza.
Talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing.
Meanwhile, on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, the families of the freed hostages are celebrating what they could only hope they'd see.
Well, CBN's Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. And Chris, let's just take on Hamas. Was it a mistake to get into negotiations with them? Because the end result is Hamas is staying in power in Gaza.
Well, that's how many people over here in Israel feel like it was a mistake. And actually, it was brokered by Qatar, which many people know has spent billions of dollars funding Hamas in the Gaza Strip, as well as many other terror groups around the world. We do see right now that video of Hamas terrorists actually deployed throughout now the northern Gaza Strip and Gaza City. What they did is smuggled in uniforms and weapons. Right now, you see, as Amiad Cohen was saying, they have reconstituting themselves, maybe 10 to 15,000 new recruits, according to U.S. intelligence. Hamas is using those same brutal tactics to control the population. We see them now in their uniforms, something you rarely see during operations between Hamas and the IDF. Usually they're wearing civilian uniforms. But what we see right now is the aid going in, Gordon, and also Hamas taking over territory. Now, if the IDF goes back in, it's just going to perhaps mean more lives of IDF taking back land that they had once controlled. So there are people here in Israel, including Melanie Phillips, that we had in our report, that believe it was a mistake to go ahead and mediate and negotiate with Hamas.
Where's the world outrage on this? That here you are, a terror group, a known terror group. You've used hospitals, you've used schools, you've used homes as cover. You've intentionally used civilians. You've conducted a war that, all of that is a list of war crimes. Where is the investigation? Where is the outrage? Why aren't we seeing that?
Well, on the contrary, Gordon, what we've seen in the last 15 months or so is that Israel is the one being accused of genocide and war crimes, and yet what they have done during their prosecution of the war is done what they could do to mitigate any Palestinian civilian lives. They've told people to get out of harm's way, go to humanitarian areas. On the other hand, as you said, Hamas is actually committing 2 war crimes. They're hiding behind their own population, and then when they had the rockets, they were firing into civilian areas. So the outrage wasn't there. And on the other hand, Gordon, from the media, from the UN, the outrage was directed, or the ICC, the International Criminal Court, or the International Court of Justice was directed at Israel. So I think Israel felt pressured into this deal and may be bearing the consequences right now.
There was outrage within the civilian population of Gaza. I mean, that we were hearing reports that they blamed Hamas for the destruction. And is there a potential for there to be free elections, that Hamas wouldn't be able to intimidate the civilian population? They would actually be able to vote in some kind of new government?
It seems unlikely, Gordon. I think you're referring to a Channel 12 report. A reporter went in there, and many of the Gazans at the time were just cursing Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, cursing Hamas for what they've brought on the population. However, with the brutal tactics that Hamas uses, I think it's very unlikely that we would see free and fair elections to be able to take over. And I don't know if there's even an entity that would be able to compete with Hamas. They do steal the humanitarian aid, and then they have brutal tactics. If anyone is accused of either collaborating with Israel or taking the aid themselves, we've seen videos of them being shot and either killed or wounded. So the brutal tactics that Hamas uses and have used since perhaps 2007, when they took over the Gaza Strip, are being employed, and unlikely perhaps we'll see those free and fair elections that many people would hope for.
Well, then let's turn to President Trump's suggestion that the Arab world take in the population of Gaza, that they go to Jordan, they go to Egypt, and the area just gets, quote, cleared out.
Well, it's certainly an unlikely suggestion. I think an out-of-the-box suggestion. Right now, Egypt's El-Sisi says no. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry says they're rejecting any relocation or transfer, whether it's temporary or permanent. But Egypt receives $1.3 billion in aid, so maybe that's leverage President Trump could use. Jordan's objecting, and so is Hamas and the PA, the Palestinian Authority. Right now, I would think Egypt and Jordan in particular may not want some of these Gazan people. They've been indoctrinated by Hamas, which is an offspring of the Muslim Brotherhood. And both Egypt and Jordan see the Muslim Brotherhood as their enemy. So they may want to keep these people out of their countries unless they would, in fact, if they would destabilize the country. So we'll see what happens. It's an unlikely suggestion, but we'll see how things go in the next few weeks or months.
Well, there's definitely a lesson from history. You go back to 1972, and the Palestinians tried to overthrow the king of Jordan and take control of Jordan, and that resulted in their expulsion into southern Lebanon. And you see what happened to Lebanon. It was the jewel of the Mediterranean, and now it's just a nightmare. So I could see easily why the other Arab nations surrounding it wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. Well, Chris, thanks so much for joining us, and keep us informed.